All right, we're good.
Very good.
Let's go.
Start from the beginning.
Yeah. And I'm going to leave it out of presentation mode for now
okay.
because I like the interaction of, we'll be bouncing in and out of land.com, Zillow. I want to look at Ben and Ajay's deal. If any one of my guys, and by the way, if y'all have questions or comments or whatever, kind of want this, like, we'll take questions as we go along. If we're slacking behind or whatever, if we're slacking behind or falling behind, I'll keep the pace up. But about me, all right, so used to be a petroleum engineer. Most of y'all know that. Quit that job after 3 years to buy and sell land. I started my land company on the side, a year and a half on the side while engineering, kind of plowed all that engineering capital into the land business. Started doing just small flips in West Texas, 5 and 10 acre lots, buying for $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, selling them for 10, 20, 30. And it kind of snowballed into what it is today. Me out on the drilling rig. Obviously, I just bought the town of Cornutus here recently, which has been the prized possession, but also the biggest amount of work. I mean, just the time and money that has set me back on the land side has actually been significant. I think about that sometimes, like, man, just the time alone, but also the money is getting close to 7-figure range now. It's a lot of land with cash straight out of pocket. And then the stuff I do on social media, close to 100,000 now on Instagram, which I'm pretty proud of because those are all real followers. And people, with the fake followers and fake engagement, I don't run ads on any of my stuff except for the land giveaways, which I do, Instagram, YouTube, and I put out a lot of free stuff. So for those of you who don't know me, just at first and last name, John Jasniak, you see it on there. This presentation will go on there after, so it'll be a replay. We got 2 cameras going. It'll be up for free on YouTube, the whole thing. So y'all can check it out. There's Cornutus. It's out near El Paso. We're headed out tomorrow morning. So I will be at dinner tonight. I'll probably pop in for 30 or 45 minutes. And then we got to get out of here because I still got to pack. And we're leaving at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Got to expand the menu and hopefully get this sucker dialed in and actually start making some real money. One of these days we'll figure it out. So I'm not a big sales or pitchy guy. Jimmy asked me to come speak. He asked me to sell something. I wanted to, for those of you who are interested, course and mastermind group, I think there's still 75 plus people in there. Pretty active every single day. We got a WhatsApp chat. I'm in there answering questions. Other 7-figure people in there. It's usually $19.97 for a course plus 1 month of access to that. Then we'll start charging you $250 a month. But use promo code REED, R-E-E-D, to get half off. $1,000 off. You'll get in for $9.97. I think it's the most badass land course on the market. Just the sales module in there alone is like 3 hours on how I do Facebook ads, email campaigns, land.com, all that stuff. So this is a mastermind, by the way, not a mentorship. I'll talk a little bit about private mentorship at the end. I'm not here to push that, but you won't get any personalized interaction here with me, but I'm always in this chat answering people's questions, hopping in. So I just try to provide as much value as possible. Let's talk real quick about the market. For the other land people here, I'm curious what y'all are seeing market-wise. I just bought a new Tahoe yesterday, and I want y'all to guess. What was the interest? It's a used car. It's a used Tahoe, 2019. It's a business loan. What do y'all think the interest rate was on that? 72-month used car loan. 8.9? What do y'all think? 14. That's a little high. 14. 10.7%, which I thought was pretty high. Like, obviously, we all know interest rates are rising. But, they did give me the whole spiel. It's a business loan, blah, 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 so it's going to be a little bit higher. It's like, hey, whatever. But I was still surprised by how high it was. I think my Jeep is at like 6.5 or something. So 10.7, that's, we're all seeing it. Things on market longer. Things are slowing down. But at least what I'm seeing from the land side, I don't know what whoever else is not in land here, like, I am still kind of seeing sellers still being a little bit delusional. They think that they're going to get top dollar. Meanwhile, their land is sitting on the market longer and longer, and I'm trying to get them down, which we are having success with some offer acceptances, but some people are still wanting cash at top dollar. And so I don't know if that's going to change. Like I tell people all the time, I'm not sure that will change because people tend not to change until you hit rock bottom or things get really bad. So until there's like a really bad economic event, I'm not sure that much is going to change from a seller's perspective. Can't remember which one of the vendors talked about the housing market is still, I mean, we're still moving. So things are still moving, I guess, and land is still moving. I'm not having any problems, especially on owner finance sales. Cash sales for me have slowed down a little bit. I'd be curious, what do you guys think? Cash sales slowed down? Cash sales slowed down. Got Ben and Ajay here for, that's crazy, man. Y'all came out from Frisco, other land guys. I want to introduce you guys to Mark because they just did a Navarro Hill County right next to Hubbard, 107 acres there. Maybe we'll look at it here in a little bit. But my boy, Grant Cardone, real estate correction is underway. Let's get ready to cash flow. Which, you know, you got Cardone, not as much Cardone, but like Kiyosaki and some of these other real estate guys are always just, the market's going to crash, things are going to correct, and it never happens. But I've actually never really seen, Grant's always pretty optimistic on the market because he's just slinging multifamily, raising a bunch of money. So for him to have that sentiment, I saw it, I was like, whoa, you know, I took note of that. What's going to happen? Who knows? I think a lot's going to depend on the election. Anything could happen. The one thing about me, I like making money in all markets. Real estate, you can make money in all markets. That's the beautiful thing about it. Buy low, sell high. That's the name of the game. Let's go to presentation mode for this. So I asked, who here uses AI, is into AI? Anybody? Not that many people. I'm not that into it myself because I think it's still got a ways to go, but I did think it'd be cool to ask ChatGPT, what is land subdividing? And it says the process of dividing a large parcel of land into smaller lots or plots. It's typically undertaken for various reasons, development, sale, or investment. I mean, I guess we really do all of that. I mean, there's so many different ways to make money in real estate. Jimmy talked about it. Are you a wholesaler? Are you a buy and hold person? It really depends on your investment strategy. Me, I like to buy it at a good price and sell it as quickly as possible. Process usually involves several key steps: surveying, planning, approval, infrastructure development, and registration. So I thought ChatGPT was pretty much spot on. What I'm going to talk about here in just a second, I was surprised actually that it did not tend to veer more towards like working with developers. Because when I tell people I subdivide land, they think that like I'm working with developers like D.R. Horton or whoever it is, entitling lots inside city limits, selling paper lots. It's like that's not really the business model that I think is best for this strategy. I mean, that is one strategy. I was listening to some other land people today. It was Kyle Bryant in Clint's group, and he gave a great breakdown of the risk of entitling paper lots. Like a lot of you guys think you're going to be able to go in and subdivide in city limits or be able to create all these quarter-acre lots and sell them off to D.R. Horton or any of these other people. That is a risky game. People don't understand. You could literally light up hundreds of thousands just in engineering and feasibilities before you even get to the point where DR or any other home builder is going to want to take your lots. I mean, they want it ready to go, and to get there is easier said than done. Working with counties, city, hall meetings, etc., you're talking probably over a year. I mean, it depends on the situation, of course, but year, 2 years of just meetings, approvals, tens of thousands out of your pocket with no guarantee. So that is not really the business model that I do or fascinates me. I'm interested in going just straight to Joe Schmo. Let's just cut out the middleman, the developer. Just go straight to the average American who wants to own 1 to 100 acres outside of city limits, but still close enough to the city. 30 to 60 minutes away from the city is what most of our stuff falls in. And I really do think, right here, I got it down here, that's like a piece of land outside the city is a new American dream for people. I mean, I drive and I see, especially when we were flying in the other day, I'm looking out the window and I see all these houses just stacked next to one another. And it's like, I rent myself in the city, so I'm in the same scenario right now, but I look at it, I'm like, man, who actually enjoys that versus being out on 1, 5, 10 acres on whether it's a mobile home or a big, beautiful mansion that you custom built, have some space, be away from the city, be away from people, little to no restrictions, maybe have some livestock. a shed, a little workshop like that, to me is a new American dream. Bless you. As opposed to an eighth of an acre lot with some classic D.R. Horton model home that they rip off. So when you're talking about subdividing, it really breaks down into two categories for me, and there's a gray area, which I'll talk about, which I'm super fascinated in right now, but major versus minor subdividing. So that plat map was 60 lots where we had to build roads, go through county approvals. It was still outside of city limits. It's the one that's on my jacket right here. It's Mitchell Acres in Midland County, Texas. We had to build 150,000 worth of roads, run power. We did a couple test wells out there. Had to go through a drainage study, county approvals. It was still pretty easy, but not near as easy as something that is a minor subdivider, just plat exempt, where you literally find a piece of land with preferably great road frontage and just run a surveyor out there. This one was one we did near Odessa, 36 acres, 3 tracks, cut it into 3 12-acre tracks, road fronts up there. Bought it for like $6,000 an acre and sold it off for like 11 or 13,000 per acre, I think it was. Those deals are, I think, getting harder to come by because there's a bunch of people who are listening to me and Ajay and all these other people talk about their minor subdivides that they're doing, and they're going out and scrounging the MLS and direct mailing, and they're finding all the lots with good road frontage that they can simply run a surveyor out and make a couple $100,000. Now, for the beginner, which I think is most of you, that is the ideal strategy, in my opinion. Very little risk. You get a surveyor out there, you break the lot up, you don't have to do any approvals, and you could sell it off next day. I mean, we pre-sell a lot of those things. So, I mean, before the land is even closed, I got it surveyed off. No, I want to subdivide it, and I sell it off to my customers like, hey, I'm closing in a week. Sign this closing statement pending Jazz Land closing. If something falls through, we'll refund you. So we start collecting money before we even sell the lot. But this is, I think, a good advanced strategy, more advanced. It's not as advanced as the major subdivide, but I call it the gray area. There's a lot of states, including Texas, that have the plat exempt regulations in place. Hey, if you create lots that are 10 plus acres, follow these rules, then you don't have to go through approval. The gray area is building roads in these plat exempt subdivisions. This is like kind of the next step. So, probably a multi-six-figure road build, but you still keep it plat exempt, 10 plus acre lots. And this was a 32 lot development we did in West Texas. Bought it for $510,000, and all said and done, we sold that stuff for about 1.5. So it was like $1 million, and it all sold owner financed. A lot of them sold within 4 months. It was funny. We had an accounting record keeping error where we thought we had all the lots sold, and it turns out that we had 4 of them still available for sale. So we're like, okay, let's throw these up. 4 lots out here. It was like 2 weeks ago. Sold in 3 days. So it's like to owner finance that stuff, things are still popping. We're asking $1,500 down and $1,000 a month for 72 months on a 10-acre lot in West Texas. Now, it's harder to find that near DFW. Near DFW, you're probably $1,500 to $1,700 a month for 120 to 150 months outside the city, about an hour away. So obviously markets vary, So current projects, I kind of just want to run through these. This is 236 acres I'm closing, Northwest Abilene, August 5th. It says 232, but it's 236. 5 for 660. It's going to be an exit of about 1.25. We got a bunch of 25-acre lots on the west. The east side will be 11 10-acre lots. We'll keep it a minor development. Got good road frontage. This one was just found on the MLS. Jones County, Texas. Super hard. The guy didn't want to come down at all. He was asking, again, sellers being sellers, he was asking $2,800 per acre. I got him to agree to seller finance me on a 1-year balloon. This is the plat I have on me, Mitchell Acres, bought for 1.1, exit for about $3 million. This is the Gaines County one. I bought an entire section out there. We're still in the process of sales, 640 acres, bought for 736. I think it'll be about 1.75. And this one, undisclosed, because I signed the contract and there's 25 different parties who need to sign it. And I'm told several have signed and they're waiting on the rest, but this is 1,700 acres, think we'll buy for 1.1. Well, I know we'll buy for 1.1. I think we'll exit 4 million might be a little bit aggressive, but certainly 3. And what's crazy about this is, do y'all know what all these little things are right there? What's riddled with? Yeah, there's over 150 oil field sites on this thing. But would y'all want to buy this for something like that? Do you think it's worth $1,000 per acre? Would anyone buy it for $1,000 per acre? What do you think I got it for? 600 is what we're signed for, at least on my side. So I don't want to jinx it. We'll knock on wood. But 600 per acre. So that'll be the purchase price of 1.1. And so what I'm planning is a bunch of 10-acre lots along pavement, and then we'll do bigger lots in the middle. And again, to keep it a minor development, we're just going to utilize this existing roadway and just break stuff up off of that. So I'll go through that a little bit here in a while. Like, I call it subdivide architecture. Like, things like this is super important. Yes, sir.
How do the pad sites impact your ability to go, or how do they impact your ability to subdivide?
Yeah, good question. I do a lot of oil field stuff for people who follow me. This also has a bunch of oil field pads, as you see. And this, been selling this. It's moving a little bit slower than I thought it would, but we've been in sales now for I think 2 months or so, and we're half sold out. Maybe not quite half, 40%. So it depends. I mean, it's going to affect the value. It's going to make it a little bit tougher to sell, but it will sell, especially if you offer it at a good price. There is no actual restriction that is involved with the oil field itself, other than you need to let them have access, ingress and egress, to handle their stuff. And you can't do anything on their pad while that well is in production. But when they plug it, there's no restrictions. I mean, you could literally, technically go right up to the wellhead, which is cemented and cased in, and do whatever you need right next to it. I wouldn't really recommend that, but you could do it. People get scared about oil field and pipelines, and it's crazy. I always tell people, how many pipelines do you think run into this building alone? For gas, water, probably electric conduit, like whatever. Literally wherever we live, there's pipelines, I guarantee it, right outside your door. The only difference here, yes, they're oil and gas pipelines, but it's the same concept. I mean, it's not just going to blow up or cause some magical craziness to your land. I mean, it's usually like 15 foot either side of the pipe. You can't do anything permanent, but you're good. I mean, whenever I see pipelines or oil field like that, that's really extreme. But when I see something like that, I'm just like hammering the seller, like, hey, it's got oil field, it's got a well on it. Like, I'm not sure. Like, I know it's not gonna be a problem, but I'm just like, I'm not sure. I'm a little scared, where I need to reduce price a little bit.
How many lots do you list at a time?
Do I list at a time? For a project like that, I only list like one lot, and then we'll, say in the description or advertise with people individually, like, here's pretty much what we do is send them that plat map. Something comes in, I'll show you here in a little while, the Facebook, but something comes in, hey, I'm interested in 10 acres, boom, I send them this plat map, and they can see all the different lots. How I like to break down subdividing land is into 5 steps. This is something that I kind of had to bring out from my head into paper, because to me it all happens like seamlessly. I'm just like see a deal, do a quick underwrite, like just kind of run through this whole thing seamlessly. I'm like, how do I actually do this? So I sat down and carved out 5 steps. Now, most people, from what I see, are going to get stuck right here. And you notice it's kind of like a revolving cycle right here. Steps 1 and 2 is the hardest part by far of this whole system. People come into this and they think this is going to be some like get-rich-quick scheme. They're going to find a subdivide overnight. One thing that I see is like a bunch of FOMO, right? They see a piece of land on the MLS, like, oh, I could subdivide that. But it's not even a good deal to begin with. So people get stuck in this trap in 1 and 2. And I have a whole bullet point list on like what you should do to move through it, but it's really actually difficult for me to describe, which I will here in a second, like exactly how I do it. Like finding deals, the best way I can advise for you to do this is you really need to know your market. Like the more of an expert you become in a market, the more deals are going to stick out, and the more you're going to know the regulations, how to navigate those regulations. You're going to get to know the contractors, what things cost in the area. You're going to underwrite more quickly and get through this cycle. A mistake that a lot of people make in real estate, now it depends on the business model, is I think they take like a shotgun approach, right? They say they want to do deals nationwide. They send out direct mails to like 5 or 10 different states. Whereas where I started, like it was exclusively West Texas. Now 7 years later, it's like all of Texas, but I've gained that knowledge, right? When I first started, it was like 3 or 4 counties in West Texas: Reeves, Pecos, Hudspeth, and like Ward County. And it was like, boom, I became the expert there and then expanded nationwide. But you can't expect to do that as a beginner, especially when you're subdividing. How am I going to know the regulations for Tennessee, Texas, all the different counties in Texas, different counties in Tennessee? What happens if I need to cut down trees versus plow a farm field to make a road? It's just not really practical. So this type of work, in my opinion, takes extreme focus, like no shiny object syndrome. Know a market, pick a market, and go from there. So how do you find a market? Step number 1. My advice is always start near you. Like a lot of people underestimate, like for whatever reason they want to like look on the other side of the country, but obviously you have an advantage if you're starting near you because you can go out and get boots on ground and talk to people. Really, I think all markets have an arbitrage in acreage size. It's kind of rare that I don't see like buy 1,000 acres and you can do like 110-acre lots and make money. Some markets are better than others, of course, but there's always an arbitrage. It just depends on acreage size. I just talked about not shotgunning approach it. I'm going to talk about this in a second. There's certain places that I recommend beginners and price points beginners to start versus experts, and doing a deal in Hill County, for instance, where you're buying for $5 or $6 grand per acre and selling for 12 or 13. I mean, that's not a beginner county. State and county regs are obviously super important, and I talked about this. No developers. I mean, of course, anything. If a developer came to me and was like, I want to buy your 100 acres in Midland, Texas, and plat it out and do houses, and they gave me a fair deal, of course, I would do it. But I've never worked in 7 years with a major home builder. I've done the mobile home companies like Land Homes, but I've never done any developers. This is not really a business model for them. They like inside the city limits, entitled, higher risk stuff. So every state's going to have a map like this. Where to subdivide, 30 to 60 minutes from any major city. You got Houston, San Antonio, DFW. Then I define a major city as like 100,000 people. Anywhere 100,000 people, I think this is a viable strategy. Abilene is like 110, Lubbock. Midland, Odessa is a few 100,000. So like anywhere where you start to see these population centers, if you expand 30 to 60 minutes out of there. I mean, I've done deals in like Fort Stockton, Texas, where it's like 10,000 people. That's been one of my worst deals to date. It was just took too long to sell. I mean, we still got 1 lot left out of 20 after a year and a half. I like to see this stuff sold in less than 6 months for sure, preferably 3 or 4. I mean, it depends on the size of the project. Let's see if we can open up some of these regs. It always blows my mind. Every county is going to have different subdivide regulations. And some of them are 240 pages long, and some of them are 20 pages long. And Scurry County, Texas, which I'm going to use as an example, actually has no regulations. Like, you will still find counties in Texas and other states, Tennessee, Alabama, Arkansas, where they're like subdivision regulations. Mark, Oklahoma, subdivision regulations. What are those? Like, you can pretty much do whatever you want. Usually that's a good thing, but sometimes it's bad because perhaps there's no market there, and there's a reason why they don't have regulations. But this is Liberty County, 242 pages near Houston. It's like 1 or 2 counties removed from Harris County to the northeast. So if you read through here, you would see how they want you to do asphalt roads, like compression tests, crazy drainage studies and engineering. They're going to lay it all out, like different road designs and ditches based on traffic, etc. So it's going to get real crazy in something like that versus Howard County, Texas, which done a couple deals out there. They've been okay to me, and they've not been okay to me at various times, but we got 74 pages. So a third of the size, a lot more straightforward. Near a population center, like this to me would be a great county to work in for actually going through a platting process. But, you still have to read through these regs. I always scan through them. And again, to my point, you're not going to work 100 counties in Texas and spend time reading through 100 different PDFs that are 100 pages long each. I guess you can maybe get AI to help you if you had, and then you're gonna have to take all that and plug it into AI. It's like it's gonna be impossible to work with, impossible to remember. It's just not a good strategy in my opinion. And then let's see if we got Scurry. That's the one I talked about. Literally, if you Google Scurry County subdivision regulations, you're not gonna find anything. The most they have is planning and zoning for the head city of Scurry, which is Snyder. So it's a good beginner market, and I'm going to show you all here. Hopefully my pages restore. We'll look at Scurry County and do a little quick exercise. But is there any questions on that? Like, the regs are super important. There's no way around it when you're subdividing. Now, the regs can be pretty easy, especially if you're doing plat exempt stuff, but you need to know them. You can't just rush into a deal, think you're going to do some DR Horton development. Yes, sir.
Depending on the county, there may be different type of lands there. Like some might have trees, some might not have trees.
Mm-hmm.
One in West Texas you are doing right now has oil fields. How do you know your target audience, and do you kind of understand the market before you purchase the land? What do you do?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're going to need to know that your land's going to sell, which we'll talk about how to do that. But I've never had a piece of land not sell. Has anyone here bought a piece of land and have it not sell? Ever? You guys know, like, you've done a lot of land deals. People I know, like, I've never done a deal and it hasn't sold. I've never done a deal and actually lost money on a land deal. The only time I've lost money is I bought a piece self-closed with bad title. Like, I've never lost money. So it's going to sell. It's possible to lose money, but as long as you think you're getting a relatively good deal, you're going to make money. But the problem is like, you don't want to just make 10 or 20%. Like, I'll talk about it here in a second. Like, we have certain economic metrics that we want to hit because obviously time is money. I have a whole team. I'm paying them. It's opportunity cost. You could have done another deal that was a better deal. So something to keep in mind. But I've never had a problem, but we will talk about how to actually know that it's going to sell. Found a market, now you got to find the deal. And then if you can't, you're going back to step one because maybe you underwrote a deal and you found out that the county wants you to pave roads, and turns out that paving roads is going to be $1 million. And so it's like, okay, back to step one. That county has paved road requirements. Maybe I need to look for a different county. Personally, I find 90% of my stuff nowadays on market, which is pretty crazy. I know the whole craze is direct mail, cold calling, ringless voicemails. I've never done a ringless voicemail. I've never done an SMS campaign for soliciting to try and find a piece of land. Only direct mail, which we probably mail out less than 5,000 pieces a year, and 90% on market. It's funny, when I do these, I've started now utilizing this time to run polls. So I'm curious who is on Zillow.com, land.com, realtor.com, LoopNet, whatever you're doing. Certainly everyone's on there once a week, right? Is everyone on there scanning once a week? Who is on there every single day? Every day. Only a handful in the audience. That's my whole deal is you will catch me on land.com looking at deals 10 or 15 minutes a day every day. I was on here on land.com before I walked up here because I was prepping in the back. I was looking at trying to find their deal, trying to make sure I got all my slides pulled up and what I need to do. I'm on there. If I can't sleep, just laying in bed, land.com every single day. Trying to understand markets, trying to see if there's any deals that pop out. And it's not really just looking for the deals, so to speak. You're going to find realtors in the area. You're going to be tapped into market knowledge. Lubbock County is a good example. We were subdividing and doing 10-acre lots out there in 2020. And if you went to Lubbock County nowadays, you would probably see, just on land.com alone, certainly 40 or 50 10-acre lots listed. The whole market has become flooded with people doing 10-acre lots outside the city limit. How would I know that if I wasn't on land.com constantly just looking through counties, looking at market changes, how much is stuff going for? Prices are going to change. Conditions are going to change. It's more about just trying to find a deal, in my opinion. Access is definitely most important. Utilities and any restrictions. And restrictions in Texas and most places outside of city limits you don't really need to worry about. And then once you find a deal, you got to get it under contract, obviously, in your favor. With this stuff, we're talking what's typical anywhere from 30 to 120 days to close, 30 to 90-day option, probably 5,000 earnest money, 500 to 1,000 bucks option money. Like, we're not super skin in the game. Like the 236 acre piece I'm doing in Jones County, I gave them, I think it was 10,000 earnest, was pretty high. I think it was like 2,500 option, which was pretty high. It was like a 45-day option. We ran out, drilled a couple of test wells, and then it was 30 days to close after the option. One good tip while we're on this subject for y'all who are doing contracts, it's a little bit different for houses, but for land, it's a pet peeve of mine. It's on top of my brain because of the 1,700 acres we're doing, going through 25 different people. She put a hard closing date in the contract of, call it, I think it's October 21st. Well, we need to wait for 25 different people to sign. So what happens if that takes 2 weeks? Like, I have plenty of closing time, but it can start eating into your closing time. So how I like to set up my contracts is everything is looped to the effective date, right? So option period is 30 days after the effective date. Closing period is 30 days after the option. So therefore, we're closing 60 days after the effective date of the contract, so you don't run into basically eating into your option or closing period, which could be a big deal on trickier projects. All right, let's look at Scurry County, Texas. This is what I call mock underwriting, and this is what I've do in my brain. Probably takes me 5 to 10 minutes per deal now. I got a couple of good apps on my phone, a loan calculator, and I just basically use Google Maps and look at these and just kind of plan it out how I would do it in my head. And of course, when I shut off my computer, Google Earth went down. But Scurry County, to me, is a great beginner market in Texas. Anything where you could buy land for less than $2 or $3 grand per acre in bulk, to me, is like a good beginner market. You can go in, cheap, affordable land, buy it for $2 grand an acre, sell it for $4 grand. Everyone can afford it. You can afford to buy it. It's probably in a more rural county, so you're probably doing 10, 20, 40 acre tracts. It's super straightforward and super easy. So anywhere $2 or $3 grand per acre or less, I've been seeing this. There's a golf course for sale. Maybe that'll be the next project. That would be interesting. But one that I wanted to pick out was this one. By the way, I'm just in here every day, and I'm looking at it in my head like I'm just doing a quick division. 425 divided by 267, it's like 1,800 per acre. This is $2 grand per acre, $2 grand per acre, 1,700 per acre, $3 grand per acre. That's really high. Obviously, everything else is 2 or less. If I were to just be scrolling through here and find something that just popped out where it was like, oh, why is that listed at 1,200 per acre? Like, I'm diving in and just like doing a mock underwrite on it. So that's what kind of I chose this one because it was 1,700 per acre. It's like, oh, what's going on there? First thing I noticed is there's windmills in the background. Not a great sign. People hate wind more than they hate oil and gas. Like, it's got this really weird negative connotation, which, I mean, I wouldn't want to live next to a windmill. There's something called, what is it, wind turbine sickness or something, which if you looked it up online, you would see like woo-woo, like, oh, it's a conspiracy theory, but it can't be great living next to a windmill, in my opinion. Could I be wrong? Yes, but there's wind there. That's going to have a negative effect. Something to keep in mind. But I want to ask y'all, like, is there anything to you that pops out? I mean, we're looking 3 water wells already, so we know there's probably good water out there. What else do we got? 50% of wind rights to convey. That's big. If you're next to a wind farm, you want to get wind rights, and you're probably going to want to pass that on to your buyers, because what happens if someone were to buy 20 or 40 acre tracts out there and the wind farm comes in one day? Like, they're going to want to know that they're covered. The biggest thing that stood out to me on this one was the shape of this piece, like road frontage wise. Like, that just sets up beautifully for some sort of minor development. Long road there, road frontage right here. Immediately I'm like, okay, let's dive in. And Snyder, Texas. Does anyone know where Snyder is?
South of London.
Yep. We'll be driving. Will we be going through? We might be driving through there tomorrow on the way out to Cornelius.
We should go check out the golf course.
Yeah. Let's grab a round real quick. I think it's only 9 holes. We can sneak that in real quick. Yeah. And of course it got removed when I had to shut down the computer, but we'll find it real quick. So this sucker, just west of 350, and it's got that little house. It's County Road 3104, right up in here, right here.
Especially in
Right
areas
there.
like this, do you need to keep in mind the mineral rights? Is there something tricky with mineral rights?
There isn't in Texas. All the stuff that I buy and do, I'm like never getting mineral rights. I wish I did, but it's not going to happen. I mean, all these sellers are savvy, and they're gonna keep the mineral rights to themselves. So I'm never concerned about having the minerals. It's got that little weird green knot. It's right here. So here's the piece that we're looking at. I always come in, boom, polygon it. By the way, I don't have any fancy subscriptions. I'm not on like Land Vision, Land ID, MapRight, the old MapRight. Like, I don't have any of that. This is what I use. I use Google Earth, and if I need to, I'll be in the county looking for like a floodplain that is associated with this little creek right here in their GIS viewer. But one thing that is super underrated and most people cannot grasp is it comes down to, we'll skip forward to number 3, the subdivide step. There's 43,560 square foot in an acre. Okay, my rule is you don't want to create lots that are too long and narrow, right? Because it's not marketable. You don't want a lot that's 100 foot wide and 4,000 foot long. That's not going to sell. I mean, people don't have any room to build. It's not going to work. So 8-to-1 is my ratio number. So that puts you at 400 by 32. Like that's the 3,200. That's the max. 200 by 1,600. Like, to me, 8-to-1 is the max. A standard is 330 by 1320, so that's 4-to-1. A square, 660 by 660, a 10-acre lot, like you see a lot of that in quarter calls out in West Texas. That's not really ideal because you want to make them skinnier so you can utilize road frontage. So what I always like to keep in mind, 43,560 in an acre. So we come in, let's see how deep this sucker is. 2,700 foot long. If we did 10-acre lots there, let me pull up a loan calculator. It's going to be what, like 150 foot wide? It's going to be too narrow. 2,700 foot long. Let's do the calculate. 43,560 times 10, 435,600. That's a 10-acre lot area. Divided by 2,700. 161 foot by 2,700 foot. That's way over 8-to-1. And to me, it's too skinny because, did y'all know, I don't think it's heavily enforced, but when you drill a water well in Texas, you are supposed to be, at least according to the state regs, I believe it's 50 foot setback from your lot lines. So if you got a 150 foot wide lot, 160, bring it in 50 foot on each side, you have 60 foot to drill your well and build within. I mean, I guess you could build somehow away from the well. You could drill the well in the back and build closer to the lot line up front, but it's just too narrow. It's over the 8-to-1. So we have to do something bigger here. I mean, it's going to set up nice for 20-acre lots because that's going to put you at like, what, 450-ish by 2,600 or whatever it is, 400 by 2,600. So that would put you at like 16 20-acre lots just running east-west. You could cram in some smaller lots along the south, but to keep it simple, we would just say it's like, what is it, 317 acres, so let's call it 16 20-acre lots running east-west. Okay, we know how we're going to break it out. Now, to that gentleman's point, how do we know that this is actually going to sell in Scurry County? We have inventory of 16 20-acre lots. How do we know it's actually going to sell? How are we getting comps? Texas is a non-disclosure state.
Man test.
The man test. Yeah. That's a good question.
Sold feature.
Well, we can go to, right off the top, we can go to Scurry County and see what's going off at like 15 to 30 acres. Someone should look into this deal. Call them up and like lowball them for, I don't know, seller financing and like $1,200 per acre.
Mark sold, that's how you find comparables.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get there. 28 acres for 115. There's one listed in Scurry County, and it looks to be close to the city. I mean, I kind of am cheating here because I know what it would sell for there. We demand tested 40-acre lots not too long ago. I think it was mid last year. want to say it was like $12.50 a month for 120 months, which puts it at like $2,500 per acre for 40-acre lots. If I had to guess off the top of my head, I sold a 10-acre lot further away from the city for $2,500 per acre. It was like out here in Fluvanna. So if I had to guess down here, 20-acre lots, you could probably comfortably get on owner financing $3,000 per acre, maybe. So that means I'm gonna have to be into it for $1,500 per acre. So like they're not far off right now, in my opinion. They're at like $1,700 per acre if you can get them down plus seller financing. But like, how do I know that it's gonna sell and would sell for that? I mean, we just covered subdivided architecture. You're gonna have to pull the comps, which we were just looking at. Obviously, what's listed is not what's sold. You can hit up. I don't have access to MLS, but a lot of people do. You can hit up someone who has access to MLS, get reports. But my favorite thing to do, by far, well, there's two of them. One, for those of you who are in Texas, every state just about has their own database. But if you just go to Texas File, Texas is a non-disclosure state. But what people don't know is when I originate an owner financing sale, like when I sell 10 acres for $1,000 a month for 120 months, it's an $86,000 note. I record a deed of trust with the county. So I can come in here and find that deed of trust in the county and see exactly what 10, 20 acre lots, whatever it is selling for. So, I mean, you get yourself a Texas File account. It's pay as you go. Boom, we'll come to Scurry County. It's already starred. Someone's been in there looking on my account, perhaps me. And, you know, you want to be what is sold recently within the last 2 or 3 years because land prices have skyrocketed. So I'm going to go since January of 23. And this has a nifty feature. I actually didn't know this till recently. If you just put a little star in the instrument number and hit search, we'll see if it works. Of course, the filter didn't set. This will pull up every document that is recorded in the county clerk. So you can just go through there and you can set it by deed of trust. And you could just explicitly look for deed of trust in Scurry County and just look at the legal descriptions for 10, 20, 40 acre lots, whatever, and just start downloading those. And you're going to see what I originated and note for in Scurry, Gaines County, whatever it is. And so now, boom, you just got a direct sale, which is hard booked into the county clerk, which is better than even an MLS report or some realtor or broker or whatever. Let's see if we can find a deed of trust and just look at it real quick. Right here, deed of trust, 40 pages. And so you're going to find deed of trust for land, for stuff in the city. So you kind of just have to, I mean, they have a preview feature where you can look at it for $2, which is nifty. If you see a bank involved, it's likely a deed of trust for a house. I like to look owner to owner or like jazz land to owner. So if you look, this was $7,300. You just have to see attached Exhibit A for legal description. So I know whatever they sold here was for $7,300 in Scurry County. It's probably a little lot in the city. So that's my second favorite way. My first favorite way is the Facebook demand test, by far. I just do, of course, it's going to ask me to log in with my password. Because we're not using Facebook. My phone's rolling. Text me a login. So I guess we'll stay away from that. But you can, what we do is just run an ad on Facebook. And I would post 20 acre lots for sale in Scurry County, County Road 3104, 1,000 down, 1,000 a month for 120 months. And then I'm looking at my cost per result, my cost per message. Anything under $10 is what I like to see. Anything under $5 is like smoking. Like if you were to run a demand test for your lots out near Hubbard, I bet you'd be sub $5, especially if you offered owner financing. Every market's gonna differ, but if I get like $20 or $30 per message, it's like, well, turns out no one in Scurry County is that interested in 20 acre lots. And have you guys ever been on like Instagram or I don't know, TikTok or whatever, and you get hit with an ad? It's like some crazy thing. It looks like a new gadget or new, I don't know, t-shirt or whatever. And you click it and it pulls you to like some weird landing site. And it's like you're trying to check out, you're trying to buy it, but you can't. Or it's just some weird landing page. Like that's e-com marketers in the background doing this strategy. That's how I developed it for whatever product. Like they're in the background, like what's our cost per click? What's our cost per lead to get to the site? How many people are checking the checkout button? How many sales do we actually have? Maybe they're refunding a sale like, oh, sorry, we're out of stock. Like, they're not really out of stock. They never had the product in the first place. They were seeing how many people were going to buy. It's pretty much what we're doing here with land. Yes, sir.
Do you do much with prime hunting land?
We've done hunting land. I don't know if you'd call it prime. Brian, when's the last hunting piece we bought? Maybe,
Maybe Big Spring.
yeah, Big Spring, Howard
I've been
County.
trying to- Hey, keep asking those questions. I've been trying to push that. I sent him like a
Yeah.
1,400 acres like 2 days ago.
Hunting land is great. I mean, there's a lot of people in the land community to do basically exclusive hunting land. Like, throw yourself up a game camera or just get a hold of some photos of like some game out there, whether it's deer, hogs, whatever. Like, I got stuff like way out in the middle of nowhere desert, Imperial, which is Pecos County, that sells like hotcakes because we advertise it as like great varmint hunting, which it is, just hogs, coyotes, whatever. Yeah, it sells like hotcakes. That's a great business model. You could do exclusively rec or hunting land for sure. The reason why I don't like that is just, to me, it's not as scalable. I mean, you are going to have less buyers when you're doing. What's important to keep in mind, whether you're doing entitled lots inside the city, hunting, recreational land. I could think of numerous other desert land in Hudspeth County where it's more for just like camping, whatever. Like, every time you step into an arena like that, you're narrowing your buyer pool to just recreational use, to just desert camping, to, you know, if you did a D.R. Horton development, to just site-built homes. I like to keep my buyer pool as wide as possible. Like, let's do no restrictions. You could hunt, you could have livestock, you put a mobile home, you could build a barndominium. That's my favorite way and favorite deals, just because, I mean, I have so many different buyers. What else?
So you found that the 1-to-8 ratio is what, just from your own experience,
Mhm.
is what sells well without
Yep.
dipping below retail values?
Yeah, and I'm sure you could stretch it even thinner. Like, if you had a 300 by like 3,000, that's 10 to 1. You still got 300 of width, so you got plenty of room to drill a well and to build. But I mean, you're stretching it for sure. 8 to 1 is kind of an arbitrary number that I have seen because it mostly covers the smaller stuff like the 10, 20. But if you got larger, like 100 acres, like, yes, you could make them skinnier and squeeze more in there. It's gonna be weird and it's gonna be really deep. I think I'm not sure how it would affect the sales. I think it would some, but the bigger acreage, I think you could stretch a little bit more. Again,
Can I get into notes? When you sell notes,
yeah, I got a little bit on notes, but let's do it now.
how much of your profit margin do you give up when you sell your notes?
Okay. Who here originates notes, paper on owner financing on any asset in real estate, not just land? Anybody? Creating notes? Just a few. Michael's got a few notes. You need to sell them, man, and do some more deals. All right. Let's do a note analysis. So this is a typical note for me. Zoom it in so y'all can see. First off the top, let's have a little finance discussion. I don't like to originate notes longer than 10 years. I know there's some land people out there, especially the big ranchette guys who are doing the more expensive land. They're DFW, Austin, Houston, who are doing 20 and 30-year notes at 9, 10, 11%. The reason why I like 10 years or less is because you're going to have less of a discount when you go to sell the notes to an investor, which is I'm about to show. Now, with that being said, some markets you're not going to be able to do a 10-year note because a 10-year note on a $300,000 piece of land near Houston is, how much is that per month? Let's check real quick. At 7%, $3,500 a month. Who's paying $3,500 a month for a piece of land? Nobody. I mean, it's possible, sure, but your buyer pool for that is going to be extremely small. So that's why those guys are stretching it out to 30-year notes. I mean, we're down to $2,000. It's still a little high if you ask me. But that's not a game I like to play just because their yields are smaller. I mean, they got 20 and 30-year notes. They're trying to cash out of the notes. They're making less money. I'd rather just attack a market where, okay, let's reverse engineer it. If the most someone's going to pay is like $1,500 per month for a piece of land, which I think that's kind of my golden rule, is $1,500 is my top side. I got some at $1,750 to $2,000. We just sold one in Big Spring, 34 acres for $2,000 a month for 120 months. I was very surprised that I had 3 people interested at the same time at that price point. That's a $172,000 note, $2,000 a month. Like it's pretty hard to do. I mean, because at that point, someone's just going to go get their own bank financing or something and cash you out. Well, let's, assume a $1,500 a month top dollar per month. Okay, now we just got to reverse engineer. If we're trying to double our money, we're at 13 grand per acre for a 10-acre lot. We got to be in it for 6,500 per acre or less. Like, there is so much opportunity in Texas at those price points. And then when I sell the note, if I'm carrying the note, my yields are going to be so much higher, as opposed to doing a 20 or 30-year game. It's a different kind of product and asset class, if you ask me, one that I'm not interested in. I like, basically, call it 7 grand per acre or less is what I'm attacking, because then I can do 10 years or less, get paid out quicker, my IRR is higher, I'm making more money. So to your question, how would we go about applying a discount to this and selling the note? I'm going to set it to exactly $1,500 a month, just because it's easier for me. Okay, so when you go to sell a note, you're basically selling your paper to an investor, which, let's just skip to that part in the PowerPoint right now. I got a $200,000 note package going through right now. I think we're probably slightly over $1 million in notes sold this year. And this guy just hit me up. Whenever an investor wants to buy more notes, I want to deliver good, high-performing notes that he can buy, because then he's going to keep coming back, especially when I actually do need to sell and looking to raise capital. So he wanted $200,000. So, he whipped me up a quote. And the most important part here, if you can see, he says, I'm okay with a 15% yield. So basically, he's giving me cash today in exchange for my note payments at an amount where he can earn 15% per year. That's how you calculate the note discount, because it's going to depend on the length of the note and your interest rate. And that's basically it. Length and interest rate to determine the discount. So people kind of get this, I always get asked, what percent on the dollar do you sell your notes for? It's like, well, if you're really asking me to ballpark, it's probably 70 to 75% on average, but it really depends on the length of the note, because if it's a 1-year note, I'm selling it for 85 or 90 cents on the dollar. If it's a 10-year note, I'm probably selling it for 60 or 65 cents on the dollar. So that calculation, you're simply going to go in here and say, okay, Mr. Investor, you want 15% on your money. So I'm going to set that equal to 15, and we're going to see what he needs to pay today. Back to 1,500, adjust my principal was 129. He's paying 92.9 for that today. So if you did equals 93,000 divided by, it was $130,000 note. He's giving me 72 cents on the dollar for that note today. So that's just a simple calculation. Obviously, you want to offload notes at as low a yield to the investor. The investor should be wanting the highest yield. He should be wanting 20, 30%. Hey, I want to buy it for a 20 or 30% yield for me. But I'm like, no, I want it. I'll give you 10%. That's not really how it goes. I think probably anywhere from 15 to 20% in the land space for just a unimproved land note that is performing well on a pretty solid asset, good payer history, is 15 to 20% yield for the investor. Back calculate the discount from there. Does that answer it?
Yeah, thanks.
Nice. It's a good question. It's an important one, because when you're subdividing like this, you're really going to want to have a couple of note buyers in your pocket, because when we're selling land, it's going to sell quicker on owner financing. Let's just be honest. You originate notes, it's going to sell a lot quicker at lower down payments as opposed to cash sales. Who's going to come up with the cash or have their own lender to do it? So, we kind of went over this. The architecture is super important. It's going to depend deal to deal. Like this one, Fort Stockton, the one I talked about, there was a groundwater conservation district. So I couldn't go under 10 acres if I wanted. So I carved it up with that in mind. This was a Midland one, a bunch of 1-acre lots. We could go down pretty much as low as possible. So I had road frontage here. I put a road here so I could have pretty much 3 rows of lots. The Andrews one, back to that one, that gray area one. This one was 10-acre lots. So I was like, okay, how can I carve this up with as little road as possible, because we don't want to be building road, wasting money, to make as many lots as possible. Now, this is a text dot road, so you're going to run into spacing requirements. It's also going to dictate how you're going to subdivide this out. So when you get to this level, it's not that difficult, but that's why I say start small. That's why you got to get to know the market. It's not going to happen overnight. Like, I just hate to say it, it's just not. This is my favorite IRR calculator, accuratecalculators.com. This is the one I use for all my deals. This is just a simple yield calculator. It allows you to save, print, send it to other people. Great resource whenever you're calculating IRR, which you should be for every project. You need to have a monthly input and the ability to do negatives. So if I'm seller financing, I'm going to be inputting negative values here for my monthly payments to seller plus my incoming cash flow. This is my baseline economic hurdles that I want to hit. 100% plus IRR. So I want my money back basically within a year on any subdivide I do. At least a double. Because, I mean, you could buy a piece of land for $500,000 and you can say, oh, I got my $500,000 back within a year, but all said and done, it's going to sell in 2 years for a total of $750,000. It's like the juice isn't worth the squeeze. I want to be at least doubling my money. This is the most important one, I think. Look, if you're a beginner, I don't think you should be carrying debt. There's plenty of land lenders out there online, fundmyland.com, Facebook groups. There's all these different resources, and the land community has grown. There's a lot of people funding land deals. Don't take equity in a deal and do some sort of profit split. If you're a beginner, don't mess with debt. I mean, I don't know what my debt is at right now. It was over $2 million. It's since come down because we paid off some notes and I moved some things around, but you don't want to just be racking up a bunch of debt, just rip in a bunch of seller finance deals. My golden rule is no more than 33% debt. Should be as a company. So if I have $5 million in debt, I should have $15 million in notes receivable. But also at a micro level, no more than 33% debt on the whole project. If every project was 33%, you'd be 33% as a company or less. So if I'm buying a piece of land for $1 million with $1 million of debt, it ought to be worth $3 million, 33%, which is way more than at least a double. So, I mean, I will do deals that are just a double because my debt ratio is like 20% right now, I think it is, give or take. So, I mean, if a deal's a double and it's a sweet deal, like for sure, do it. But, you know, this would tend to indicate that you're at 3-to-1. But this is my ultra conservative number. I mean, maybe you get away with 50% because like what happens if the market really does tank? What if Uncle G is correct and you have 100 people paying you and half of them stop paying you? Well, if you were at 50%, you'd just be squeezing by. So that's kind of what's going through my brain. This is in every presentation I give. In the back, then up here.
Okay, so when you originate a note and then you sell it, do you have any seasoning on the payments or you sell it immediately?
I like to hold notes. I try not to sell them personally unless I need capital. Depends on the investor. The one I pulled up had 8 months of payments. I've sold plenty of them right out the chute, just 0 months, down payment and sell them. So it depends on the investor. There's a lot of note buyers out there, surprisingly. Paperstack.com is a good resource for those of you who are into buying notes. I've found several note buyers on here. There's a lot of investors out there who will buy with no seasoning or very little seasoning. Then there's other guys that I know who are like, oh, we need at least 20 months of payments, clean history, a credit check, and he had to give at least 10% down. It's like, I'm never going to sell notes to that guy. But there's plenty out there who will buy with little to no seasoning. How do I determine what the down payment is on my land? Yeah. Well, as low as possible, I'll tell you that. Most of our down payments are less than 5%. A lot of times less than 2.5%. Like $50,000 note is $1,000 a month for 60 months at 7% interest for me. I'm probably getting $1,500 down. So that puts me at what? About 3.25, 3.3, 3.3%. So that's pretty typical. Less than 5. I mean, the lower the down payment, the quicker it's going to sell. IRR does not equal ROI. That's what you all got to keep in mind. Time value of money, you could make 10x your money, but if it takes you 50 years, it's worthless. You still have a question up here?
Yeah, I was gonna ask what your general business model is. It to wrap the notes and hold them long term?
Yeah.
Both on the owner financing on the purchase side and on the sale side? Or is it that to get partial releases on the purchase side and then flip the notes so you're not holding them long term? Or do you have a standard?
Standard is to hold them. So wrap them and hold them, I would say. I sell them when I need capital for more projects. But I'm a huge proponent of wraps. Now we're getting into the weeds. So when I'll buy with seller financing, like the Jones County one I'm doing, I'm giving $132,000 down, carrying a note of $528,000 with a 1-year balloon. That's not a beginner strategy. You don't want a $528,000 note ballooning after 1 year, because that means you need to either sell them all cash or originate notes and get rid of all the paper, or come out of pocket after a year for probably 500 grand. But to answer your question, yes, I love wrapping with both private guys and sellers. So I'll first approach the seller, hey, will you seller finance me? $100,000 down and $400,000, $500,000 purchase. Get them to sign a creative deed of trust that removes the due on sale clause, inserts the right for me to sell all or part while paying them. I owner finance a lot to my customers, and then he just receives his monthly payments as a seller. The only time he's getting a partial release is if I sell a lot for cash, or if I sell off a note. Then of course we need to get first lien to the investor. So
Typically don't do balloons on the
no, I typically don't do balloons. I've never done a balloon on a sale side for me. When I sell land, I don't do balloons. I mean, no buyers don't really look at it favorably. And I mean, I've just never done it. I don't really feel confident in sellers' ability, or buyers, ability to either refinance or pay me off in whatever time. But yeah, my seller, I try not to do balloons, just because there's so many deals out there. It's a riskier strategy. The deal has to be really good. I've done it twice. This one and the other one was really good. Martin County, Texas, 80 acres. That was like purchased for $3,000 per acre, and we sold it for like $11,000 per acre. It was a 2-year balloon.
What interest rate do the sellers usually give you?
Yeah, so let's have the interest rate discussion real quick, because interest rates are rising. This is something that I'm fascinated about. A lot of people care about interest rates, okay? To me, interest rates are kind of irrelevant, because we're talking making 100% IRR on a deal, double, triple your money. I borrow private money at 18%. So to answer his question, when a seller won't seller finance me and the deal is good and I like it, now what I've started to do, I have a couple of private guys who will come in and lend me $200,000, $500,000, $800,000 at 18% interest, like 80 to 90% loan to value. And so basically they step into the seller's shoes, and we do the creative deed of trust, and it's at 18%. Now the average person will be like, oh my God, that's high. But it's not when I'm buying it at $2,000 per acre and selling it for $6,000 per acre. Like, I could afford to pay the guy 40 or 50% interest and still make a bunch of money. So the interest rate discussion, what's standard for sellers, I would say 7 to 10% interest. Most of the time I'm doing 7%. And to me, that's just a logical thing. Like, I don't really have any, well, I do have reasons. When I'm selling a piece of land, okay, I see a lot of people out there originating notes at 10 or 11% interest right now. They're like, oh, the bank's interests are so high, like we can get 10 or 11%. Okay, fair, that is true. But I'm at 7% on all the stuff that I originate. So we're looking right here, which is a typical note, $1,000 a month for 120 months at 7% interest. This is like right in my wheelhouse. $86,000 note, okay. Ben and Ajay might be selling the same lot for 11% interest. Like, interest rate's high, we can get 11%. Okay, now their monthly payment went up. So what matters most to buyers on a piece of land? It's a down payment, because that's what they're getting into the land for, and then it's the monthly payment, because that's what they can afford. So basically all I've done now is jacked up the price of the land. This, when they go to sell it to the investor, instead of 72 cents on the dollar, I don't know, they're probably going to get 77 cents on the dollar. This is basically the same effect as if I drop it back down to 7% interest and I raise the principal to, I don't know, whatever it works out to be equal, 95. Now, when I go to sell this at 72 cents on the dollar, it's going to be the same number as their 86 or whatever at 11% and get them to 77 cents on the dollar. So I'm thinking psychologically, like, we're approaching buyers right now and be like, hey, the banks are charging 9 or 10%, we're at 7%. But they don't know that our principal is higher. Like, we're upcharging them for the note. So when we sell it at a higher principal, we come down to whatever the investor is paying us. Conversely, you're at 11%. With a lower principal, you're taking less of a discount and you're hitting at the same mark on the back end, if that makes sense. But I have the psychological advantage for the buyer. I'm saying, Mr. Buyer, I'm at 7%. You're at 11%. That's a very touchy thing for people, is the interest rate, because most people don't understand what I'm explaining here. Now, alternatively, interest income is taxed at normal income rates. So you're making 11% interest and it's taxed at your income bracket. I have a lower interest. My notes receivable are higher, so that's a higher note receivable on my books as opposed to you, because we're assuming this monthly payment is equal, because this is really what buyers care about. So if we're assuming this is equal, at a lower interest, this principal amount is going to be higher. At a higher interest, this principal amount is going to be lower. So if I were to pull up your books, your notes receivable are going to be way lower than me, probably 10 or 15% lower, but you're getting more interest income. You're paying full income tax bracket on that tax-wise. Me, I'm getting a higher principal. I have a bigger balance sheet. I can use that for whatever, lend against it. I don't know. There's, I guess, multiple different things I could do. That's a different discussion. But I'm also spreading those payments out over time and paying technically normal income tax bracket tax rates. I mean, it's similar, but I'm spreading it out over time. Guess you are too with your interest payments. But I have the psychological advantage of offering lower interest, and my notes are higher. But we're getting to the same spot at the end when we sell the note to the investor. You have a less discount, I have a steeper discount, but I have the higher principal, if that makes sense. It's kind of, I think about this a lot. Most people don't think about it. It's like you really got to sit down and think about it. Now, why would you not charge only 3 or 4% interest? You would have a crazy psychological advantage with your buyers, because you would say, oh, it's such low interest. You'd have to charge a higher principal, which could be problematic, because any savvy buyer is going to say, well, it's a $100,000 piece of land now, technically. But the main reason why I wouldn't charge that low of interest rate is because they're not incentivized to pay it off early. 7% is the arbitrary number that I chose when I started, where it's good psychologically, they're incentivized to pay it off early, and it's not too high, and my notes would be higher. If I had to go higher, I'd go to 8 or 9, but I wouldn't go over 9.
Have you been at 7 before rates really shot up?
I was at 7 since I started in 2017. Michael.
So, Lee, as you're selling notes to a note investor, I guess, if you do raise your interest to 11 or 12% and you sell that note to the note investor, if that buyer decides, or the person that holds the note decides to pay off early, is the note purchaser the guy that takes on that risk? Because he loses more money because they're not going to pay more interest.
Yes and no. I mean, that note buyer is going to be concerned about receiving interest for sure. That's why they're investing in notes. They want to make interest over time. But they're still going to make money because, again, the discount is going to be less. It'll technically be less steep. If you're charging 11%, their discount's going to be not as steep, but it's going to work out to be the same for them because they're fixed at their 15% or 20% or whatever they want to earn over time. So they're going to be paying less for that note, but they're still going to be making their 15% yield. So it will be the same, but I guess, yeah, they're going to not be, if they pay off, the payoff is early, they're not going to make as much money. So that is another disadvantage to them. But most note buyers are not really, I don't think, thinking like that because they want to make their interest. But you do make a good point that I guess they would theoretically make less on early payoffs, which would be a problem. Another reason not to have higher interest. I'm going to add that to my spiel next time. Thank you for that. All right, we got 10 more minutes. Let's run through this real quick. Do maybe a couple more questions. So the last part of this business is you got to manage it, obviously. Loan management, people paying you. We manage it all in-house. I don't use people to manage the loans. We use the mortgage office. It's like a commercial, high, sophisticated end system. It's $11,000 a year. People don't pay, you're going to have to resell. Then you have the record keeping and accounting, especially when you're holding a lot of notes. You really need to have your systems and everything in place. We use QuickBooks. I have a master tax spreadsheet, the mortgage office, and a payment processor. Basically, it's 4 systems that run together. You got to be on top of your stuff, especially when you're originating notes. It's not that hard, though, if I'm being honest, till we scale and get real crazy. Then it's the team and process building. I have what I would say is a relatively small team. We already talked about notes. We got me at the top, then Brian, my ops manager, Mason, who just came on. I hired a sales manager because just got the way I want to get this is like we already have like 4 or 5 projects going right now, and just I was spending last week $500 a day on Facebook ads, so it's like I'm not going to be there managing all those messages and inflow. You know, I hope to be spending $1,000 a day in Facebook ads with 5 to 10 subdivisions going at once. But my thing is like small team. I'm not a fan of VAs. Small team, local, everyone tuned in to what's going on. And, you know, look, Brian helps me at Cornutus. He basically is like restaurant manager over Charlie. Mason will be swinging a hammer at Cornutus. Like if my team is like, they better be able to do everything. When I hire, next hire is going to be more like a transactional coordinator, secretary type. Like they better be able to know how to post on Facebook and run an ad, and they'll probably be out at Cornutus doing something. So the more you know, the better, obviously. And I think your team is better like that. I mean, I'm not here to tell you that I'm the expert at running a company. I mean, the companies that I have probably, depending on the day, $10 to $12 million. I'm not no Bill Gates or Mark Zuckerberg or, I don't know, Elon Musk, so I can't preach up here that I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm still learning every day, but this is how I have it structured. I don't use VAs or anything like that. We got the bookkeeper, should be your first hire for sure in any real estate business. I think that's pretty common sense. Fractional CFO as you grow, and then you need to have a good real estate attorney. That, especially, look, when you first start subdividing the beginner deals, especially if you have a little bit of mentorship, you're not going to need a real estate attorney. I handled all the beginning subdivides myself without an attorney, but when you get into crazy stuff like this Fort Stockton deal where there was a creek coming out and there was a fight over ownership of that and all the crazy easements and everything, like you really need a decent real estate attorney in your state that you're operating, and you should build a relationship, pay your bills next day on time, and you know, you got to find someone who has real estate experience, preferably in land. Selling notes and cashing out. Is there anything that we missed here? I don't think so. Other than you got to just, PaperStack's a good resource. Facebook private groups. If you just go to Facebook groups, search private money investing, hard money, note buying. A lot of those guys in there are sharks. They want 20 to 25%, and they don't really understand land, but you can find some good ones in there. My team. We talked about this. For those of you who are interested, johnjanicek.com/mastermind, promo code READ. I'll be at dinner for at least a half hour. We'll try and stay as long as possible. Got a long night and long day ahead, but there's been multiple 7-figure guys and deals to come out of this group when I first started it, which is pretty cool. We've done some good projects in there. And then basically what happened is it got to be too crazy for me, so I shut it down and did, now we're doing the private Subdivide mentorship that's largely focused on subdivisions. There's 10 people in there right now. I had it capped at 12. I had to remove a couple people. So now we got 1 or 2 more spots open. But, you know, at the end of the day, I'm trying to do less coaching. Like, I don't make a lot of money doing this. I make money doing subdivides, and Cornutus takes a lot of my time. But for those of you who are interested, this is something where you're going to have to see me individually. $7,500 to get in. And then it's 20% of profits for consulting. Basically, it's consulting for profit. I modeled it after Alex Hormozy. Like, I had this brainstorm. I was like, I'm going to shut down my other group. Hormozy did his whole gym launch thing and took percentage of profits. That way, everyone's highly incentivized. I help you do $1 million profit. I get paid, and you're going to make a bunch of money. This is the first success story to come out of this one. We're only like 2 months into this group. Mark Elmore is here. He's in the group. He's been real close to locking some solid ones down. We're gonna get it here very shortly. This is Balu and Pranav's. They're Fort Worth guys that didn't come out tonight, but this is 406 acres in Taylor County that they're buying for $950K, $375 down and $575 over 10 years. Paying them like $6,700 a month. It's stupid. Each lot's gonna bring in $1,000 a month for 60 months. It's gonna be about a $2 million deal, I think. So, you know, it'll be $1 million profit. I'll walk away with $200K. They'll walk away with $8. I was on the phone negotiating with the seller with them on this one. Seller didn't understand owner financing, the creative deed of trust, all that stuff. Hopped on, had a 15 minutes discussion. They got the contract signed. that same day. So I'm not a big sales guy. I'm not here to really pitch my stuff, mainly doing it because where's Jimmy? Jimmy asked me to. And, to be honest, this is not free. It takes time. It takes my energy. I do like speaking. I like helping people. My main thing is I want to be the most known person in the land space. I think social media and everything, like I'm getting there, if not almost there. But anyone who wants to do something like that needs to coach and help other people. Do you have a question?
Was this on market or off?
Off market. They called him about an on market deal, and he's like, there was some problem with it, and he's like, oh, by the way, I have this 406 acres over here. And we're like, oh, shoot, that's a much better deal anyways. Like, let's look at that one. The one thing about this one is it has a little bit of iffy water on the south side of the project. They got like, I think a gallon per minute on one well and like 3 or 4 on another. But, I've done dry land before and stuff that's been that low gallon per minute, and it's never been a problem. So that's what I was like, guys, this is what I've done in the past. Like, I think you're going to be fine. And then up on the north side, it was a lot stronger water. But, the comps, they did 20-acre lots right on the north side here at $4,500 an acre back in 22. And they sold for cash. It was a no-brainer. I think they're buying it for like $2,600 per acre or something, whatever it works out to be. It was funny. They actually went back to the seller, and this is something I was having a discussion with a guy. There's a land event in Denver, Alex De La Torre or whatever his name is. We're having a discussion. He's like, man, one thing I've really been doing is like going back to the negotiating table with these sellers. And that's exactly what my guys did here. They had it at $1 million. And they went out there and they drilled these wells, and like, that's kind of weak. They're like, we're going to call the guy up and ask for a $50,000 reduction. They call him up. He agreed to a $50,000 price reduction because the wells were weak. I was like, man, why am I not doing that? And I was talking to a guy at a land event. He's like, yeah, man, these people already have the money in their pocket, right? So this guy's already under contract. He's got $1 million coming to me. This land I've had for a while, and I'm getting this deal sold now. And so you go back and say, hey, I need a price reduction, otherwise you're not getting your money. Like, there's a lot of people out there, obviously, that are going to be willing to come down in price. Now, you got to do it ethically. It's not something that, we're not trying to take advantage of people. They actually had a legit reason. It was a little bit of devaluing on the south side, but that's a cool tip that I actually learned from these guys and from Alex at that event.
If you have got a little in that situation, you just rewrite the contract.
Contract amendment, yeah, I used to do a TREC amendment. It's a one-pager. No, 10-plus acre. Plat exempt. Plat exempt, so not an issue. Don't even have to do a drainage study. But yeah, there is a little bit of floodplain here. It's a good question, especially on land like this, where it's just, this is farm field and this is a little bit of wooded area back there. This, I think, is actually going to add value. When you have a flat land, the first thing I get asked, like, does it have trees? Does it have water? Like, people want some sort of water feature. They want some trees. So I think this is actually going to add a little bit of value. It gets low back here. It does hold some water from time to time. It's like a seasonal creek, I would call it. So I think that's going to actually add value. What else? We got enough for 1 or 2 more questions. Yes, sir.
Do you endorse proposals by beginners for a consultant fee?
Yeah, I would. I'll look at it, do like a Zoom call or like some one-on-one time. I used to do like $250 an hour, but I've tried bumping it to like $500 just because I don't need to be spending Zoom calls on, people who, that I like looking at deals. So the best way is actually just to shoot me an email. Like, I'm probably going to respond. I used to respond to 100%. I've dialed it down a little bit, but if you want something more intensive, like, yeah, for sure, we can hop on for like $300 an hour or something. What else? Other questions? I think Jimmy's tapped us out. Time to go eat. Well, sweet. I'll be at dinner for at least a half hour. Come see me. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's right here. $997 for the course, and then a month in the group, which is a badass group. There's 75 folks in there, not just me doing 7-figure deals, other people learning everything.
Do you have a certain amount of opens for that, or?
Anyone can come into this. It's wide open. I'm in there every day. It's not a big time sink.
Let me give you a few heads up on tonight what we do. So if you're interested in the 997 training, just go out and see Amber and then you'll be in his group working, how to do the land stuff. The $7,500 one, you're just gonna get with John.
Yeah, I would recommend get with me.
At that deal. Now, for dinner tonight, I called, told them how many are coming. A few more people came in, so I actually have 2 open spots still for dinner. If you were one of the people that came in and didn't hear about that we're going to the Blue Goose Cantina, and you would like to go and eat with all of us, there's 25 of us going to network, hang out. John will be there. If you're one of the people that never raised your hand to go eat tonight, if you want to, I have 2 spots. So the first 2 hands, go. We got Sharon, anybody else? All right, we're good. So what'll happen, guys, John will be there. If you got any Q&A, ask him here while we're tearing down. We will be available at the restaurant. They are expecting us at 9 p.m. It's 8:35 roughly now. Cindy, you're gonna go, right? So let them know. She knows what to do. She comes all the time. Again, if you do have an interest in doing the 990, is it 997?
Yeah, and real quick too, this is their deal. You bought this for 560?
520.
520, and it's worth probably what, 1 to 1.2 at least.
Yeah.
You see, the road fronters are going to keep it plat exempt. I know these guys, as Ben and Ajay, they coach and teach too. I got my guy Mark here, blue shirt. Mark, raise your hand. Now, you should go talk to him, talk to my team, talk to me, talk to these 2. They're doing subdivides too. They've done this deal. Ajay's got a land event. I'll be going late September. So for those of you who are interested in doing this, land is a small community. Like, get to know us. There's probably 100+ real players who just like show up to every land event. Like, you get in the community, like, there's so much to learn, and we're all helping one another. So it's pretty cool. Hill County, not a beginner's market. Buy for $5,000 an acre, sell for probably what, 12, whatever it is. Boom, just south of here.